So the goal behind those drills is I want you guys to get used to the idea that your top game is not a static, it's never going to be static. It's really easy to get in the habit, especially when you're new. When you get side control, you're just like, you hang on to it for dear life and just try to hold the person down. But what you should take your lessons that you learned from playing guard. A lot of people are more comfortable with their guard than their top game initially. When you're playing guard, you're always adjusting your hips, adjusting your grips, you're always moving a little bit, trying to react to what your opponent's doing. Your top game is going to be the same way. It's a very fluid position. It might not be as dynamic as a guard game will be, but it's always going to take a little bit of movement, if not a lot of movement sometimes, to maintain your top position. Okay? So you have to be willing to adjust and kind of flow with what's going on the bottom. When you get to that position where you can really hold somebody down like a pin pin's going to be kind of on the same level as a submission. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of very calculated effort to get somebody to the point where they can actually do nothing to escape. You just hold them down. That's why a pin in wrestling is a very difficult thing to do, because it takes a lot of work to get there, and it's almost as tricky as getting a submission. So when you guys are playing your top game, you got to be willing to move and be fluid a little bit to keep your positioning. So it's knowing where to move and when to move and why to move that's going to make your top game more reliable and more effective here. So we're going to look at some really basic stuff today. We'll just get you comfortable with attacking and maintaining a basic side control. We'll start to build on that in the next couple weeks or so. So we're going to assume that we just hit the cross knee and I got this underhook on the far side here. Okay? Just work it this way a little bit. So if I get this underhook, this is a big win for me. We'll talk about if I don't have the underhook. This is a big deal if I get this. So if I got this underhook, this arm's pretty much out of the game for the most part here. There's some things you can do to get it back, but really my biggest challenge from here is going to be this inside arm. Okay? So if I'm here and I got this underhook, I'm controlling this guy's head, he's going to start putting pressure on my hip. This is where a lot of people get hung up at first, because he starts creating like this frame, a little bit of a shelf on my hip. And when he gets really strong here, that little wedge here can be what creates enough space for him to escape. Whether he's pushing me away to get his guard back, get a knee inside, or whether he's just like bench pressing me off and throwing me away. Yeah, and he's really creating space. So I need to be able to dig that arm out and close the gap. As long as he has a frame here, I can't put as much pressure down on Jason as I'd like to, because his arm's supporting it. So there's two basic ways that you're gonna dig this arm out. I'm basically trying to flop my hip to either side of it. So if I'm here and he's just going down flat, it's not working because he's putting pressure back. He's putting pressure back here. He's floating my hips a little bit. I'm going to cut an angle, so I'm going to drop to either side. So we'll do like a really basic kind of queso position here. So I'm going to turn my hip towards the mat. Push up a little bit. As soon as he's committed to it, I turn my hip towards the mat and slide my knee underneath it. Okay? So now that pressure doesn't really matter on my hips anymore because I've got the pressure down on his lower body here. Okay? It's really stupid simple, but it's one of those things that you'll forget a lot of times when you're first starting jiu-jitsu because you're so worried about hanging on. So you got to cut your hips and dig underneath of it. So here, Joel's head, he puts a little pressure. Boom, switch my legs. So I turn my hips this way. If they weren't facing down, now I'm facing them out. I'm shooting my knee underneath the shoulder, filling this space up. You can't get his elbow to the mat, but keeping everything nice and tight, nice and low here. I don't want to get super far over, I don't want to get too far past the center line. I'd rather stay kind of low here. So my head is almost like right above his sternum a little bit. Okay? So this is my basic position. We're just going to do a really simple attack from here. Just keep you guys flowing on stuff. Really get into this hip dugout is what I want you to focus on. One more time. We're in position. Just nice turn. My hip. Shoot my knee underneath it. Now from here, I can control his elbow a little bit. This is really difficult to do consistently, in no-gi especially, but still get in the habit of trying to get this grip and control this a little bit. If Jason starts hiding it from me a little bit, that's fine. I'm just going to kind of just keep my pressure down on him here. What I want to do, and this is really sneaky submission, I'm going to take my hands underhooked. I'm going to grab the back of my head here. So now when Jason flops his other hand in front to put pressure on my face, I can catch his wrist just like this. Now from here, my head goes on top of my hand, pin it to the mat, hand over top, grab my own wrist, and I do my basic Americana here. Pull his elbow down towards his ribs, get to finish. Pressure on the hip, dig it out, get to stay nice and low, keep trying to control his elbow, grab the back of my head. As soon as that flops in front, I just catch it just like this. So this is a little different from just hanging on here. Now if he flops it in front, now it's a race to try and catch it. But if I'm here, he goes, I can go like this. And if he tries to hide from it, like he whips it back around, I still got my underhook. Versus here, go, and I miss it, well now I'm kind of stuck. So let's get the back of my head here. He flops it in front, catch, use my head to pressure it down, hand on top, elbow inside, grab my own wrist, get my Americana pressure. So really quick on the Americana, you're pulling the elbow nice and low to his body, keeping his hand in the mat, and then lifting the elbow up. Okay, be gentle. Cool? You guys get that all the way over there in the cheap seats? Cool.